Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for another after-school adventure. My name is Susanna and today we are going to be talking about Canada geese. So you're probably seeing a lot of them right now flying south for the winter. Do you ever wonder how they know? Well, I tried asking one, but he just squawked and flew off. But then I did a little research and it turns out there are all types of things that tip them off. They know it's time to leave when the food starts getting harder to find and when the ground and the ponds start to freeze. And they know where to go in a few different ways. They follow the sun and they follow the stars, the flow of the rivers. And the coolest way they know is because of the magnetic field of the Earth. So the Earth itself is kind of like a very big, weak magnet. So there's one end, the magnetic north, otherwise known as the North Pole, and then the other end is the magnetic south, otherwise known as the South Pole. So this is caused by the rotation of the Earth combined with the Earth's core, but the result is a magnetic field around the whole Earth. And some scientists think that some birds can feel the magnetic field of the Earth because they have a lot of a magnetic mineral called magnetite, that's it, in their brain. So they just have to follow their instincts. Humans can also use the magnetic field of the Earth to find north and south, but we can't just follow our heads. We need a little help. All right, everybody, so our first experiment for today is a homemade compass. So I've got a store-made compass here. So I don't know, you may have seen one of these before. So you'll see the little, it's kind of hard to see, but the little moving stick in there. So those two ends are pointing north and south. So they're being pulled by the Earth's magnetic field to the Earth's magnetic north and magnetic south. So we can make our own. We just need a few things to get it done. So one thing you'll need is a bowl of water, a fairly wide bowl you want. It doesn't need to be very deep. We're just having something floating on top, but you do need that. The next thing you need is a sewing needle. So this will be what is pointing to north and south. And in order to make it do that, we need a magnet. So I have a really big magnet here. It's very strong. And the most important thing is I have access to both sides of the magnet. So if something like a fridge magnet would work, but you need to have access to both sides. So a lot of times a fridge magnet, it has a picture on one side and then it sticks to the fridge on the other. So that wouldn't work for us today. So either if you have a broken one or one that's just plain, that just sticks on the fridge and you can see both sides, that'll work. So we need that. We need a pair of scissors. We need some wax paper, not very much at all. And I'm using a little measuring tape just because, but you don't really need to. You can just kind of guess. But the first thing we are going to do is cut out some wax paper. So we need about an inch circle of wax paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 1 inch square. So I'll show you. A 1 inch is not very big at all. This is about an inch. Here's my thumb for comparison. So it's pretty small. But I'm going to take my measuring tape and I'm going to stick it onto my wax paper and just draw a line where it goes 1 inch from the edge. So that's right there. And then I'm going to go the other way and measure 1 inch. So that's going to give us our 1 inch square, which I will just cut out by following the lines I marked. So one here, and one here. And then I just need to round out the corners. So just like that. So it doesn't really need to be very precise. I say 1 inch just because you want it small, but it does need to be big enough. This is going to hold up our needle. There it is. All right. So now that we've got our wax paper, we are going to take our magnet and our sewing needle, and now we're going to magnetize the sewing needle. So what you want to do is you want to take your sewing needle and take your magnet and make sure you're holding it in the same position as you go along. And we're going to just stroke the needle on the magnet. So you don't want to go like this across the magnet. You want to keep going just one direction. So I'm pulling and then I'm lifting, going over, and I'm pulling back. So this is going to take a while. With my quite strong magnet, I'm doing it about 50 times. And you have to do it on each side. So it takes a while, and with a weaker, like a kitchen magnet, it may take even longer. But you'll start to notice when it's magnetized. So right now, this isn't going to work, but because I'm just showing you, I'll show you what you need to do next. So once you do this about 50-ish times, or until you feel like you've been doing it for a really long time, then you are going to flip your magnet over exactly. So you don't want to spin it around or anything. And then you are going to flip your sewing needle around. So you're holding the other end. And then you're going to do the same thing, stroke across. And then eventually you will get a magnetized needle. All right, so I'm going to keep doing this for a while and check back in. All right, so I have my needle magnetized. It's actually sticking to my scissors, which is a good sign. You'll notice when it gets magnetized that it does start to stick to stuff. It's not super strong or anything, but it'll be a little extra pull there. So that's when you know. So now that you have your needle magnetized, you take your little wax paper circle and you're just gonna push it through close to the center, but not exactly. So I'm just pushing it through like that. And then I'm going to just pull it back out the same side I pushed it in. So I'm going to lay this flat against it and push it through one more time. So that's how that looks. So it goes in and it comes out on the same side. So now I've got my needle, and then we just stick it in the water. And it should point north. You'll notice that it'll probably spin when you first put it in. So that's where it's just finding its north. And then if you kind of push it around with your finger, it'll just slowly go back into this right spot. So I actually have a regular compass here. I'll put it next to our homemade one and I'll show you how it looks. Pretty cool, right? One thing I will say, so before I had a pot and my big magnet that I used to magnetize our needle close to my compass, and it was messing it up. You can't have anything very magnetic, so anything with a lot of iron is very magnetic. So you got to move that all away, and you got to move away your magnet, because otherwise it's going to pull your needle away from north and it'll go to the magnet instead, because the magnet is going to be a stronger magnetic field. Like I said, the earth is like a big magnet, but a very big weak magnet. All right, so now we know which way is north, which way is south, and which way these birds are going. So we know the direction the birds are going in and how they know where to go, but why are they going again? Well, there's a couple reasons for that. One, the food gets better the further south they go. Think about winter here. There's not really a lot for a bird to eat, right? And then two, it gets noticeably warmer for the geese down there because they're able to travel far enough. The geese can travel up to 65 kilometers per hour and even faster if there's a breeze blowing with them. And they go over 4,000 kilometers south. And they travel higher than the CN Tower at 650 meters. And they do it all in that classic V shape. And that actually helps with the trip too. They travel in that V shape because the front bird has all the air flowing over its wings, and that reduces the resistance and the oncoming force for every single bird behind it. So that front bird is taking it on for everybody else in the back. And then sometimes you'll see they'll switch out because that front bird gets tired. So he'll say, I'm done, and he'll move on to the back. So that's really interesting, right? That sounds like a really cool trip. So I don't know about you guys, but I'd like to check in, see how the trip has been, ask where they're going. And that is where our second activity comes in. All right, so our second craft is really quick, but it's just to help us with talking to these geese, right? We want to hear what they have to say. So all you need is a plastic drinking straw and a pair of scissors. So mine is a bendy straw, which you don't need, so I'm just actually going to cut that off. And then we're going to flatten this. We're going to flatten this end really tight. So you definitely want to make sure that it's nice and creased. So again, this may take a little while. You may even want to do something to help, like maybe you could push your scissors along against the table to help with that. And then once it is good and flat, we're going to cut a point on the straw. All right. So this is going to be our goose collar. It's not going to sound exactly like a goose. We're probably going to sound like we have an accent to them, but I think it'll get our message across. And this is it. So this is what it'll look like. So when it's pushed down, we cut it into a V. And then when you turn it the other way, it'll look like that. So you're putting it into your mouth like this, and then you're just blowing through the straw. You know what? I don't think I made this one side long enough. You want to make sure they're pretty long, meaning the spot between where you start cutting and where you finish cutting, you want that to be pretty long. So let's try this again. So it does take a little bit to get used to it. If you're having trouble making the sound, either make this part longer, like I said, or just kind of move the straw around in your mouth, because you want the part where you just started the cut to be right around your lips. So, and then you can actually change the pitch if you change the size of the straw. It's really cool. So that's the one I'll use when I'm talking to the younger kids, and then the babies, I'll use this one. All right, guys. So now that we have our duck collar, I think we're just about finished here. Okay, guys. So now we have the tools to know where the geese are headed and be able to talk to them. So go out and enjoy the geese, but remember, they like their personal space. Bye. See you next week.